Here, and it is time. We are finally at the end. So this series I started back in October, November. Took a little break because of the winter, or because of the Christmas season, and then came back at it hard and strong. And now we are finally here. My number one favorite Pokemon type of all time. And again, you already should know what it is if you've been half paying attention, or if you paid or watch the previous video, and that's electric. Um, this and fire typing have always been my top two. There's never been a time I can remember where they bounced out of the top two. They've bounced back and forth here and there, but electric has somewhat consistently stayed number one. I know Charizard's my favorite Pokemon of all time, but if you look at my top 10, top 15, top 20 favorite Pokemon, it's mostly electric. I'd say about at least a quarter of them, give or take, are electric. I love electric typing. Electricity just in general is cool. I love thunderstorms. Oh my god, I am still yawning. This is whew. But yeah, I need to get some electricity in my body to keep me going. See what I did there? But yeah, electricity is amazing, and some of these decisions were hard and easy at the same time. And I'll explain when I get to that one. So quick refresher for the rules for the final time. Four Pokemon. This one I'm actually going to show you more than four Pokemon, and again, you'll see why. So the four Pokemon that I'm going to show you, the pure typing, my favorite. You should already figure out or know who that is if you know anything about me or seen any of my other previous videos. Favorite primary type, secondary type, and then my least favorite. This is actually one of those rare times where I actually do hate my least favorite, and it has to do with the Alola region and because of what him and his little friends did to me in one of the Kahuna challenges. Some of you might already know if you're a real true deep lore Pokemon fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So before I dive into my favorite pure type, which a lot of you probably already know it is, the decision was actually very easy to pick my favorite pure type, but it was like hard at the same time. And the reason is I've never once wavered on who my favorite pure type is, but my second favorite pure type, there are so many good ones. But because of how cemented my favorite is, these other ones never stood a chance. So there's so many of them, and if this my pure favorite wasn't who he was, I would have had a very, very hard time picking my number one. So some of my other ones would be like Ampharos. Love Ampharos. This Pokemon is phenomenal. Then we got Luxray. I mean, from Shinx to Luxio to Luxray. I literally am doing a playthrough of Legends Arceus, and a shiny Luxray is literally on my team. It was like the third Pokemon I caught on this playthrough, and I just used him to help me beat the game. So again, Luxray is phenomenal, and even Bolton. Like I said about my fire video, I love the Galar region. It is such a fun region. My son actually just got the Build-A-Bear Yampera stuffed animal. And I mean, these three electric type Pokemon, coupled with my actual favorite, my number one, are generally the reason why electricity is my favorite type. I mean, Charizard is my favorite Pokemon of all time, but then there's a lot of fire Pokemon that are lackluster. I mean, these electric Pokemon are just phenomenal, and I don't know what it is, if other people feel the same way or not, but these Pokemon are awesome. So now my actual favorite pure electric type, these are some honorable mentions, but my actual favorite pure electric type would have to be Jolteon. I mean, Jolteon and Charizard have been my first and second favorite Pokemon since my days of Pokemon Blue. I used Jolteon to help me beat Blue's Blastoise because I picked Charizard, and honestly, it's been ever since it's been that. I mean, anytime I can get Charizard and Jolteon on the same team, I always do. These two Pokemon have always held a special place in my heart. And honestly, I highly doubt there's ever going to be a time in my life where these two are not number one and two. Yeah, again, there's a lot of phenomenal electric types out there that could have easily been number one if Jolteon didn't exist, but he does, and until the day I die, it's probably going to be Charizard and Jolteon. Now, my favorite sec or primary type electric Pokemon is a newer one, and again, he's just awesome. I just can't say enough about how great these electric types are, and that's Palmont. Um, I don't hate Scarlet and Violet. I think it gets a much harsher rep than it should. They are still amazing games, and I do think the open world wasn't horrible. A lot of the glitches that people said they were coming into, I never saw them, And I think Pokemon did a good job of patching them relatively quick. So I did like the premise. I liked the Paradox Pokemon. I liked a lot of that stuff. And the DLCs weren't horrible, but it did fall short of what we were all expecting, especially after having a game as amazing as Legends Arceus. And then they scrapped a good third of the things that made that game so awesome. A lot of us were disappointed. And again, that doesn't take away from how cool the Pokemon are, though. And Palmot's one of them. And here's the thing, I've always been kind of a fan of the like weird evolutions, you know? Like some of the evolutions or ways to evolve your Pokemon are just downright dumb. But I liked Palmot, you know, and anyone who's wondering, well, they don't understand why they did those weird evolutions. If there was a weird evolution, it usually had to do with like some new feature that came out, like to evolve Inklay into Malmar or Malamar. You had to hold your switch upside down, and it was because when those Pokemon came out, it was to test the gyroscopics of the DS. So Palmont, you evolve him by having Palmont walk outside of his Pokeball for like 2,000 steps or something. And it was to show the new feature of having your Pokemon stay outside the Pokeball and battle automatically with while you were just running around. So I kind of liked that. I thought it was a cool, unique way. It changes things up from the straight, you know, stone trade or level, you know. And again, Palmot's a cool Pokemon. He's cute. He's heavy hitting, and he's a fighting type too. He's electric and fire or electric and fighting, so that also can help out with some type disadvantages too, especially when you're fighting like rock and or ground type Pokemon. Now, my favorite secondary type, I almost picked Toxicity for this one, and then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm gonna pick this one instead. Actually, that was Palmot. Sorry, Toxicity almost replaced Palmot. But my next one is Chinchou. There's not a whole lot of secondary electric types. Um, there's a handful. I'll give them that, but honestly, there's none that just jumped out at me. I mean, again, don't get me wrong. There's still some cool ones out there, but Chinchou is just this cute little Pokemon. He's been around since the Johto region. I like the little light bulbs on his head. Plus, he was really cute. There's like one episode in the TV series where Chinchou was like lighting the way for them. And it was so cool how they did it. Huh. Plus, whenever I see Chinchou's evolution form, I always think of Finding Nemo, the anglerfish. And yeah, so a little bit of nostalgia, a little bit of Disney nostalgia popping in here, but you know, whatever. Now, my least favorite electric type. This one I just hate because of an event that happened in the Alola region in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and that would be Tynamo or Tinamo or whatever his name is. Again, I know it's you shouldn't hate the Pokemon off one event, but at the same time, you should hate the Pokemon off one event. When Tynamo or Tinamo or whatever, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Because I've never cared enough to find out. But when he called on his school of fish, and then you had that whale Pokemon, Dondazon or whatever his name was. I can't even remember his name. I hated the Alola region. But when they showed up to help out, it's like, oh my god! Especially since I had Incineroar as my lead Pokemon, it took me forever to power through that. You know. And again, I finally did it. Finally was like, screw it, I'm gonna go train up another Pokemon and be a good trainer instead of just powering through. But I was not a fan of the Sun and Moon games. It was actually my least favorite games. The one good thing from Sun and Moon was they got rid of the HM Pokemon. They just had Pokemon pop in to help you out when you needed them. But man, Tynamo just sucks, you know? And it looks cool because it looks like this little tadpole Pokemon. And it looks like it has potential. But just like Miltank, you know, that one event in the game spoiled it forever for me. So yeah, so those are my favorite. That's my favorite electric type, my number one, and that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for my typing videos. You know, some of them you probably were expecting, some of them you might have been shocked, but in the end, these are my favorites. You might have your own favorite, and that's great. We all can have our opinion. As long as you don't like Miltank, then your opinion is valid. So thank you for sticking around to the end. Thank you for watching them all, and yeah, hey, stick around for my next video, my next series.